And I'm David. We're talking about the season premiere of Survivor, new show.
Survivor, David versus Goliath.
Right.
So let's jump right into that theme.
Right.
That was laid on thick.
They really had to take some time to lay the groundwork for this theme and really explain what was going on here.
I feel like if you have to explain it that much, maybe it's not a good theme.
It's not great, yeah.
I don't know.
I also didn't really love how they sort of teed us up to not like the Goliaths right off the bat. Like, I kind of would like to form my own opinions about these people, but they were, really praising the Davids, like, you guys have overcome so much adversity and you're always up for a challenge and you overcome and this and that. And Goliath's like, yeah, it takes a lot of work to be a doctor, but like, you've just had a lot of things handed to you.
Now, that's an interesting perspective because mine is similar, but I just thought, oh, they're setting us up to love the Davids and root for the Davids, which is a given for me. You give me any underdog.
Amen.
And I'm there.
Absolutely.
So you obviously got me that way.
Yeah.
But I hadn't thought of it that way of like hating the Goliaths.
Right.
I mean, but then of course once we start to get to know them, who are the ones we hate?
Yeah, the Goliaths. So they're on the boat,
Yeah.
right? And they're taking a long time explaining this theme, but then eventually they do this like picking ceremony, and there's 2 Davids versus 2 Goliaths, and we have our first challenge of the season, and the prize is firewood or wood for the shelter, right?
Right. So they randomly are like, pick the weakest and the strongest,
Yeah.
but then you're gonna pick the route or the parts of the showdown
Right,
to do.
right.
And it was all very awkward, I felt. I just felt
Yeah.
uncomfortable with the like, pick the weakest.
Yeah.
And like, I was just like, what are you doing
What's
to
going
me?
on? Yeah,
Ooh.
right.
But ultimately, the Davids getting to choose which challenge or which legs.
route. Yeah. Uh-huh.
That helped them.
Yeah, absolutely. And they won, which was great, of course, because we've been
Very
set up
fun.
to root for the Davids.
Yep, immediately the underdogs.
Yes, I'm immediately obsessed with this Christian character who was like, oh, well, we had an unfair advantage because I did algorithms for slide puzzles in college. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to need as many episodes as possible with you.
Of that.
Yes.
If you guys have watched our videos before, you know that I love a socially awkward, nerdy type. I am all about those
When
guys.
the part later on in the episode where he's interacting, I forget her name.
Gabby.
Gabby. When Gabby's interacting with him and she's falling in love with him, I'm like, that is Sarah. Like, that would 100% be Sarah. Sarah would be all up in his business. Like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? Hey, you want to be friends?
Yes.
Like, Sarah would
I'd be like,
not...
we're making an alliance, right?
Right.
I love you. I would be.
Yeah. So he was great, and he was instrumental in David's winning this advantage
Yes.
right off the bat. And then they get on their boats and go to the island, to their different
Go to their
camps.
islands and we start to get to know them a little bit more. The beginning of Survivor is always really difficult because we're trying to figure out who is who.
Yeah.
But we do start to see as they're building shelter, obviously, who's willing to work, who knows things. On David, we see Pat, who is in construction or property management, and so he's orchestrating how that's
and
gonna
he's
go.
like barking out orders and yelling at Christian to like pull this bamboo over here and this and that, and like doing a lot of
direct.
Joking, right? Like a little bit of like crass humor, at least how they edited it.
Right.
And that didn't really seem to sit well with some people on the David tribe.
But they were obviously appreciative that they were getting great shelter out of all
Absolutely.
of
So
this.
they were like, I guess we'll put up with it because like we're getting a nice shelter out of this.
Then on Goliath, they're all sort of just trying to figure it out together.
Yeah.
And we start to see Natalie, who is a CEO.
Yes.
Is what
And
we
she's
see.
just kind of standing there, surveying the surroundings, not really picking anything up, and
she's used to doing
yes,
that. Exactly
right.
that.
Yeah. And she's like, just like Pat on the David side, she's kind of the same situation with the rest of the tribe. People are not, they're kind of put off by her behavior.
Yes. But hers was way worse, I thought. Like, just standing there and directing.
And just like,
to the point of, you're not listening to me.
Right.
You need to do it this way, but you're not
doing
lifting
anything.
a finger.
Yeah.
You can't not lift a finger on Survivor.
It's very
that just
high and
doesn't
mighty.
work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then the other thing that starts happening on the Goliath side is this Mike character, who's a Hollywood writer.
I remember Mike from Amazing Race.
And
I was
so
very excited.
So do some of the other contestants. They recognize him.
Yes.
And he, I think, is a little bit out of place on the Goliath tribe, but he's successful, you know, in his own way. Just not like this physical presence. A lot of the Goliath people are like super strong physically, but Mike is more of just like he's found success in his own way.
This was part of my issue with this theme is like the Goliaths were not big, brooding Goliaths. What we traditionally think of Goliaths. They're successful people, which, okay, you explained it to me, so I get that now. Yeah. But I'm still... Like, Mike, when I heard he was on this season, I, of course, was like, I loved him and his dad on Amazing Race. Yeah. But I assumed he was in the Davids. Yeah. Because he's a writer. He's, like, kind of nerdy.
Yeah, totally.
But he's a Goliath because he's successful in Hollywood. Okay.
Right. Okay.
I kind of get it. I'm still very confused.
Yeah, but Mike sort of gets caught up in like the Survivor experience. And he's like super excited to be on the show. And so he's like, I gotta go look for an idol. Yeah. Like that's what you do on Survivor. But he's gone for too long and people are like, where's Mike? He's looking for an idol. He's our target. And so then Natalie has to go off and find him. And she's like, you blew it. Like everybody's talking about how you're trying to find an idol now. But then it sort of devolves into everybody on Goliath is looking for an idol.
So now editing, this is very interesting. Because now CBS, first they've handed us, we have underdogs, don't you love them?
Right.
And now they're handing us, look, the successful people are just looking for the advantage to win, while the underdogs are all bonding.
They're all like cuddled under the shelter in the rain and sharing their stories of like
demons and struggles.
Family problems and like all this stuff. And even the guy who seemed kind of callous at first, I forget his name, but he eventually opens up and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I just like didn't feel like I could tell you guys earlier, but now I want to tell you. And everybody's crying and everybody's emotional and they're really, I think that is going to be something unique on the Davids tribe because I think that this sort of like spirit of we have all overcome things is really going to bond them in a unique way that we have at least not seen yet on the Goliath side.
Yeah, I really do. Like the fact that they're just revealing their souls to each other. Yeah. Once we start merging and breaking up, if we go into 3 tribes at some point or whatever, that is a bond that's hard to break.
Absolutely.
And could potentially really help people in the long run in this type of game.
Yep.
So we go to our first immunity challenge.
And boy, is it brutal because this rain will not quit.
Rain. This is why I will never go on Survivor. No. That alone.
I honestly was like, after the second, I would be like, I'm good. Like, I can't do this rain for 40 days. I can't, it's too much.
One night sleeping in the rain with my barely built shelter.
Soaking wet. No.
I'm done.
So they have this, it's of course this like big team immunity challenge, lots of physical things. They're digging already. They're, you know, doing puzzles with these big heavy blocks and all this. Goliath gets off to a big head start because the guy gets through the sand very quickly. The other guy gets like beat up going through this challenge. Yeah. But Goliath gets this lead and then they maintain it and they win the first immunity.
Now, Davids did catch up because they put our good buddy Christian.
Good friend Christian, yes.
He was the caller for the puzzle, which obviously put him on all puzzles this season.
Yes.
And so they did catch up quite a bit. It was a close finish, but the Goliaths pulled it out. Yeah. So now we're prepared to send our little underdogs to tribal for the first time.
Right.
But that is not what happens.
No. Okay. So this is where I started to be like, I don't like it. So they don't have footage of this boat accident, right? But so they do this
because they're just riding. It's just transportation. It's not a challenge.
They're just going back to the island.
Going back to their island.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
Somehow they hit a wave weird.
All that rain.
And, it was very stormy and somehow Pat hurt his back. I don't really know the physics of what happened.
An impact happened and Pat's back is in excruciating pain. So they pull over. Medics are all around. Team is like sitting there waiting. Oh my God. Then Jeff comes out.
Yeah.
And so now we know this is real serious.
And it's just to the point, like, I don't like watching people who are so injured that they can't really breathe and can't really talk. It's just so uncomfortable. And I'm like, when is this going to end? Like, I don't want to watch this. It just like feels like he's about to die.
What makes me uncomfortable is when Jeff has to like moderate a show.
Yes.
And like
while someone's in excruciating pain.
Medic guy, tell me what's happening.
Right.
He's like, he's messed up.
Right.
And then he's like, okay,
Pat, how do you feel? And Pat's like,
I can't.
Yeah.
But like Pat's like, please don't take me out of this game. I
he's
don't
like
want to go.
pleading to stay.
And the medic's like, we have to make sure like he's not got a spinal cord injury, you know?
Yes, and I'm like, Jeff, just tell him that he can come back next season and send him away, okay? Because
this is a great story, Pat. You will be back on whatever tribe, for sure.
So then, you know, Jeff sort of breaks the news to everybody. Everybody sees it happen, so the tribe knows what's going on. But Jeff comes over and explains, you know, yes, in fact, Pat is pulled from the game, but you're not losing another member. There's no tribal, and they're all very relieved, of course. And now he's gifting them with flint, just like Goliath won from the immunity challenge, so that they can make a fire once the rain lets up.
Gosh, give the guys some fire. I mean, if the rain ever stops. But that was obviously not the way that anybody wants Survivor to go or an episode to end.
Yes.
You know, the poor guy gets injured and it's not even during a challenge.
Yeah.
And he's out of the game on the first episode.
Yeah, it's
That's
really
such
too
a
bad.
bummer.
Yeah, it's too bad.
And even though he was like direct and, you know, weird jokes or whatever, like I thought he was a great character.
For sure.
I mean, what a David, I guess, if that's what we're calling him in the show. Like, low income, got himself up into a profession. That's another thing I have an issue with this theme, is that we're saying the Goliaths are really successful.
Right.
But I felt like the Davids were successful. They all had jobs and a claim to fame. They just had to work to get there.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I don't know.
It's a very tenuous theme. It's very tenuous, because even on the Goliath side, you had Dan, who we did fail to mention that he found the immunity idol on the Goliath side. But we've got this Dan who's a SWAT cop, but he's saying, well, I used to be fat and I had to work really hard to become a SWAT officer. So I'm like,
get over to the David side.
Are you a David? Like, I don't really understand where the line is on these.
Gray area here in the middle. But while we're talking about him, he is just here for love, you guys.
I was so mad at that, because I'm like,
I called him a Fessy if any of our Big Brother viewers are here.
And you'll get that reference, because like to me, if you're willing to go get into a showmance or even utter the word showmance on day one, then are you really there to play Survivor? Because you know that can severely hinder your game.
But I also love it because she sees that and she's like, oh, I will take advantage of this. And so he's just going to be puttying her hand, and that's fine with me.
Yeah, and she is someone who he was with when he found the idol, so who knows how she might be able to manipulate that situation.
She found an idol with her and one other girl, and so how does that work out? Whenever you find an idol in a group,
it's not good for people to know your secrets on Survivor.
There is one idol that has been found on the Goliath side, but we did not see them find one on the Davids, although I don't know if they were looking because they were huddled together telling their life stories.
Really pouring their hearts out to each other.
Okay, so we obviously have expressed our concern about the theme, but you know what? Every theme kind of disappears after the first couple episodes anyway, and it's just tribe versus tribe.
Right.
So that's fine with me.
Yeah, but I do see this lingering in the sense of like, oh, we're the original Davids and like we've bonded. I think specifically that David tribe is going to be super loyal to each other. We'll see.
And the Goliaths, I guess they you have to be hot to be a Goliath.
Gotta be hot.
Because there were some lookers,
good looking people on that
side.
Specifically the men.
Okay.
Now, next week, we got a little bit of a preview. Presumably, we'll get our first tribal council next week, but Natalie seems to be on a tear with her Natalie Napalm.
Natalie's not gonna last. Like, how's that gonna?
I know.
How is she gonna last in Survivor? Like,
she can't.
What was she thinking going on this show?
Yeah,
that was crazy.
It's not. I don't think the clock is ticking on Natalie. I think.
Oh, and who's the guy that said he wanted to name the alliances? I was like,
what was his name?
Did you want to go on Big Brother? Why did you get cast on Survivor?
I think that's the same guy who was like closed off and then he was emotional.
Yeah.
And he was like, what do you name our alliance?
He wasn't willing to actually build the shelter. And he didn't want to talk, but then he wanted to talk.
Yes.
But he wanted to put names on the alliance, which I just thought was hilarious.
I did love it. He tried to befriend the Kentucky girl, right? With the cowboy hat.
Yeah.
And he was like, what do you want to name it? And she was like, I don't care.
I'm not really good at that stuff.
Yeah.
We both liked her a lot. Yes. She was adorable.
Yeah, she's really cute.
We liked her. We liked Gabby. We liked Christian.
Yeah.
And I liked that girl, Kara. Kara,
Yeah.
on Goliath that's about to manipulate
She
him.
liked the wrestler. I can't.
Oh, he's hilarious.
He's gonna be one that's fun to hate for me, but like I can't stand him already.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm looking forward to getting to know these people better and who they really are.
Right.
And looking forward to them just getting into challenges and let's get the game of Survivor going.
That's right. Hopefully it won't be a medevac every single week. Obviously it won't, but let's get into those tribal councils. That's what we all live for.
Yes. What do you guys think?
Let us know and we'll see you guys next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.